Nestled in the heart of rolling green hills, Millhaven was the kind of town that belonged in postcards. Its cobblestone streets lined with old oak trees, its perfectly manicured lawns, and its cheerful residents, always ready with a wave, made it seem almost too perfect. But perfection, as they say, is a lie. Beneath Millhaven's polished surface lurked shadows, a history of secrets buried under layers of civility. Most townsfolk ignored those shadows. They chose to live as though Millhaven's charm could protect them from the darkness. Until the morning when that illusion shattered. It was a crisp October morning when the first body was found. The kind of morning where the frost glistened on rooftops and the air carried the scent of wood smoke and falling leaves. Detective Eleanor Hart had barely taken her first sip of coffee when the call came in. A murder. In Millhaven. It wasn't just unusual, it was unthinkable. Eleanor arrived at 132 Willow Lane just as the sun broke through the fog. The victim, Adam Wainwright, was known to everyone in town. A journalist with a reputation for asking the questions no one wanted to answer. His house, a cozy white cottage with blue shutters, looked untouched. But inside, the air was thick with something Eleanor couldn't quite name: unease. The study was the heart of the scene. A small desk sat near the window, cluttered with notes, a laptop still glowing faintly, and a coffee mug half empty. But it was Adam's body that drew Eleanor's focus. He lay face down on the polished wooden floor, a pool of dark blood spreading beneath him. The wound was a single clean stab to the heart. It wasn't the violence that unnerved her, it was the precision. No signs of struggle, no forced entry, no weapon left behind, and no clues. "This doesn't make sense," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. The room was pristine, too pristine. Whoever had done this hadn't just killed Adam, they'd erased themselves entirely, and that terrified her. His news of Adam's death hit Millhaven like a thunderclap. In a town of just 10,000 people, everyone knew everyone else, or at least thought they did. Rumors spread as fast as the fall leaves scattered in the wind. At the diner on Main Street, locals whispered over their coffee, their voices tinged with fear. "Did you hear? They found Adam Wainwright dead." "Murdered, you mean? Right in his own house." "Do you think it was someone from out of town?" "Couldn't have been. No one comes to Millhaven this time of year." Theories ranged from a jealous lover to a drifter passing through. But Eleanor knew better. This wasn't random. Adam had been working on something dangerous. His most recent investigation had been into allegations of corruption in the town's real estate deals, developers accused of bribery, council members implicated in land grabs, and fortunes made at the expense of the town's heritage. Could it be that Adam had gotten too close to the truth? For days, Eleanor pored over Adam's files, hoping for a lead. The investigation was a dead end, literally. No fingerprints, no fibers, no trace evidence. It was as though the killer had floated in and out like a ghost. Then late one night, her computer pinged. An email. No sender, no subject, just a single message. "I see you." Attached was a photo that made Eleanor's blood run cold. The photo was of Adam's study, the same study where his body had been found. The angle was low, as though the picture had been taken from inside the room, moments before his death. In the faint reflection of the window, Eleanor could just make out a shadowy figure. It wasn't much, a blurred outline, but it was enough to send a message. The killer hadn't just been watching Adam. They were watching her now. Millhaven's quiet unraveling took a darker turn 3 weeks later. Laura Bennett, head of the town council, was found dead in her living room. The scene was eerily familiar. A single stab wound. No signs of struggle. No clues. Laura had been implicated in the same corruption allegations Adam was investigating. The connection was undeniable. This was no random killer. This was a vigilante, or something worse. Eleanor stood in Laura's home, her eyes scanning the room. Unlike Adam's cozy study, Laura's house was grand. High ceilings, expensive furniture, a glass coffee table shattered in the struggle. But just like before, there was nothing left behind. Nothing except a growing sense of dread. "We're dealing with someone meticulous," she told her team. "Someone who plans every move, every detail. This isn't just about the victims. This is about sending a message. Desperation breeds boldness, and Eleanor was desperate. With 2 murders and no leads, she needed to force the killer's hand. She decided to set a trap. Leaking information to the press, she hinted at a key witness who was ready to expose the corruption scandal. The witness, of course, was a decoy. The meeting place, an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. Eleanor and her team staked out the location, every exit covered, waiting for the killer to take the bait. The night was cold, the warehouse dark except for a single light bulb swinging from the ceiling. The decoy sat at a table, his face obscured by shadows. Hours passed in silence, the tension growing unbearable. Then, just before midnight, a figure appeared. Cloaked in black, the figure moved with eerie confidence. Eleanor's heart pounded as she stepped out of the shadows, her gun trained on the intruder. "Freeze!" she shouted. The figure stopped but didn't raise their hands. Instead, they spoke, their voice calm and measured. "You've been looking for me, Detective Hart, and now you found me." The figure removed their hood, revealing a face Eleanor knew all too well. Dr. Marcus Hensley, Millhaven's beloved physician. His expression was serene, almost amused. "Marcus," Eleanor said, her voice shaking. "Why?" "Why?" Marcus repeated, tilting his head. "Because someone has to clean up this town. Adam, Laura, they were parasites, feeding on Millhaven's decay. I didn't kill them, Detective. I cured them." Eleanor's grip on her gun tightened. "You're insane," Marcus smiled. "Am I? Or am I the only one willing to do what's necessary?" Before Eleanor could react, Marcus pressed a button in his hand. A blinding flash filled the room, and when the smoke cleared, he was gone. Vanished, just like that. Millhaven struggled to return to normal, but normal was a distant memory. The murders had left scars, on the town, on its people, and on Eleanor herself. For weeks, she searched for Marcus, following every lead, every whisper, but he had disappeared without a trace. In her quieter moments, Eleanor replayed their confrontation in her mind. His words haunted her. Had she misunderstood him? Was he a monster, or a man consumed by his own twisted sense of justice? The questions lingered unanswered as Millhaven tried to move on. But Eleanor knew the truth. This wasn't over. Marcus Hensley was still out there, and he wasn't done. Millhaven had been his first act. The world would be his stage. And Eleanor? She was determined to stop him, no matter the cost. And so Millhaven remains quiet, its picturesque charm hiding the cracks left by unspeakable crimes. But somewhere in the shadows, Marcus Hensley watches, waiting, planning. Because for him, this isn't the end. It's only the beginning.